We're chatting with Jesse, aka the Scumfrog. Last time we talked and met was about, 2004, 10 years ago. I asked then about Simmer. How do you still feel about it 10 years on?
Simmer was a very interesting album for me personally because it was such a huge commercial disappointment that it took me a very long time to separate the commercial losses from that album, separate those from the album that I, at the end of the day, really wanted to make. So for a few years, I was kind of embarrassed about the album because it did not deliver on commercial expectations. And then later on, I could look back on it and actually be proud that I had the opportunity and I did what I wanted to do, and acknowledge that sometimes when you do exactly what you want to do, you win, and sometimes you lose. And that's just one of the burdens that you encounter when you always do exactly what you want to do. So I guess looking back on it now, 10 years later, there are still a lot of tracks on that album that I really, really love. And Simmer, definitely, I really like it, even though it was not a big hit.
You're often in Toronto. You play many venues and events, from places like the Comfort Zone and After Hours Club to the Brazilian Party at Government, Boa, System Soundbar, which they finally actually just tore down, a place called The Factory for a one-off venue before. Is there somewhere you really liked? And what do you think about playing one of the hottest clubs this Valentine's Day?
That list is kind of impressive when you say it like that. It's cool to hear all those names of all those clubs, and I definitely have vivid memories of many of those parties. I've heard a lot about Coda. I heard the opening party was amazing. I'm very fortunate that my friend Sydney Blue has a night there, and she's taken me along on that night. I hope the turnout is going to be good, and I hope that there's going to be a good mix of people who know me from 10 years ago and some new people who know me from my latest album.
Do you find it hard to customize your sets for the crowd or venue, or are you always playing what you want to play?
I do both. I try to do a combination of the records that I want to play and the records that sound ideal in a particular setting. There are some records that sound really good when you play them on a stage in front of 10,000 people, and those are not really the records you're going to play in a smaller, more intimate room. So say I'll make a playlist of 300 suggested tracks in my record box that I could play in that particular venue and that particular time slot. And then from those 300 tracks, I'll select on the fly which tracks I'm actually going to play. But I never, ever play a track that I don't really like myself, because there's too much music out there. There's too much really good music out there to ever play a record that you don't like. So even though my sets differ depending on where I play and how many people are in front of me, and if it's peak time or after hours, the sound might differ a little bit, but I'll never play a record that I'm not completely 100% behind.
Is there someone behind your work that deserves to have their name in the credits for the amount of influence they have on you?
There's probably a laundry list. When it comes to influence, I think there is a very big list of people who all have their little bit of influence on me in their own right. And then there is a short list of people who deserve a great amount of credit for the amount of patience that they have with me, and the amount of understanding they have for me, because it's not always easy to live with an artist. It's very easy to live with an artist when that artist is making a lot of money and travels first class everywhere. And then when you encounter years that are less fortunate, it really takes a special kind of person to be okay with an artist doing their artistic thing. And I happen to be married to the most amazing woman who really gets that and who supports me in a phenomenal way and who is very patient with me. And the rewards of that are that, we get to go to amazing places in the world, but it's not always amazing. And especially when you choose to make the kind of music that is not automatically commercially successful, it really helps to have people in your immediate surrounding who understand that kind of music, first of all, and second of all, who understand that there is a bigger long-term plan at play rather than just the short-term, what is the chart position of my latest record.
You've been a producer now for almost 25 years. Do you feel old at times?
That is a very dangerous question. I think a lot of artists might walk away at this point from the interview. Yeah, of course you feel old at times. I think the challenge is to avoid situations that make you feel old as an artist. There are many reasons why I don't like playing candy raves, but that's definitely one reason, that I don't want to look into a crowd and feel that everyone in the crowd could be my daughter. That makes me feel horrible, and I just want to grab the mic and say, everybody, you should just go home and get some sleep. But at the same time, I feel there is some sort of a growing scene in the dance music industry that actually values age because it comes with a certain experience. It comes with a knowledge of music that spans more decades than just like what's hot right now. And I see increasingly more around me, because I'm not the only 40-year-old DJ, that there are many 40-something-year-old DJs that get booked because they have that knowledge of music and because promoters expect them to tap into that knowledge of music rather than just sticking to the Beatport Top 10. And I enjoy that tremendously. I love playing older records in a set. I love surprising a crowd with an older record, making them think that it's a new record for a little bit, and then making them realize, oh, wow, that might actually be the original version from 15 years ago. I enjoy that tremendously. And then there's the element of knowing records from the 70s, 80s, and 90s and knowing how to weave those records into a set. I love to do that personally. I always love to do that, but I see that there is a growing sense of appreciation for DJs who do that around me. So in that regard, here's to the next 10 years.
How do you stay competitive in the modern scene with so much turbulence going on?
I think there are two ways to be competitive in dance music. There's the Hollywood way, which is analyzing what's hot right now and copying that before 100 other people have copied that before you. I would consider that to be competitive. And then there's the other way, which is pretending that there is no competition going on whatsoever. I moved from New York City to the desert and mountains of New Mexico 6 years ago, and I live in a pretty reclusive house on a mountain in the desert. And so for me, it's really easy to forget that there is any sense of competition. And when Armada Records approached me last year to do an album, they really gave me the freedom to make something that came from my own center rather than from an analysis what should be happening in dance music right now. So I think my latest album, In Case We're All Still Here, it has a lot of stuff that resonates with now, but it also has a lot of stuff that just resonates with my own journey from the past 20 years in music. And I was able to do that because I was able to pretend that I was not competing with anyone. And that worked because a lot of people ended up actually liking that album.
Is there any new material on the way? Maybe another artist album coming up?
Yeah, there's always new material on the way. I'm always making tracks. Sometimes I do one at a time, and sometimes I make like 8 tracks at the same time. Right now I have like 4 or 5 unfinished tracks that they're finished enough to play in my DJ sets, but they're not finished enough yet to actually release. So I should actually finish all of those proper and release them. I don't know if it's going to be yet another artist album, because those you should really only do like once every 5 years, or if somebody pays you a lot for it. Otherwise, it's just going to be tracks on different labels that are crazy enough to put them out. So let's see what happens with that. But yeah, my most recent artist album, In Case We're All Still Here, on Armada Records. Check it out. It's from last year, yes, but it doesn't exactly sound like last year because it doesn't really sound like any year. So check it out. Plug.
If you could trade places with a DJ or a producer for one day, who would it be?
Who would I trade with as a DJ? It would probably have to be a DJ that I really do not understand, so that when I become that DJ for a day, I'll develop some sort of understanding for that, maybe? I don't know. How about Paris Hilton? Can I be Paris Hilton for a day? I know I can probably be in Paris Hilton for a day. I don't know. I wouldn't want to change with any of them. No, I'm just fine being me.
And if you weren't doing this, what do you think you'd find yourself doing?
You know, I think it speaks to how delirious I am about life in general that I still have not figured that out. I have no idea what I would do if I would not be doing this. And I think that if I had figured that out, I may have already been doing that. So I really enjoy making music. I am extremely blessed that I can make a living with it and make a living touring and make a living going from city to city and spread that kind of music that I love to people and see smiling faces everywhere. I don't think that's going to get old, and I think that all those smiling people around me will inspire me to not really worry about what else there might be out there.
What would you say is your typical production setup, and are you able to produce while you're traveling?
My production setup is really my laptop. So in theory, I would totally be able to produce while traveling. And sometimes I tweak a track and I'll on the plane or something, but I try to get everything else done while I'm traveling. I try to get all my emails out of the way. I try to make edits for my DJ sets. I try to, finish my radio show, all that kind of stuff that is not producing, so that when I get home, I can actually focus on the producing part more. I'm really used to being either in my house surrounded by complete silence or take my laptop into the mountains and be outdoors while I write and produce. I have a hard time getting into the mind space to do that in a hotel room. But I have to say, if I can just do a shameless plug here for V-Moda, when they came out with their M100s headphones, it really enabled me to do a lot more mixing on my headphones alone. It's the first time that I could actually use headphones to make an entire track and be aware of really all the frequencies that are going on in a track, even the low ones. So those M100s really gave me a lot of confidence that I could actually do it on the road if I wanted to. I can still not do it in the mountains because there are way too many rattlesnakes around me that I cannot have headphones on because you won't hear them coming.
What's the one thing you couldn't deal without having while you're DJing or producing?
A vodka tonic is always good. I like Negro Modelo a lot. And anything I can put my USB stick in.
And I guess finally, what are you looking forward to most in the next 10 months or so?
2014. It's been a really fun start this year. A lot of promoters caught up with my artist album from last summer and started to book me in a lot of places where I haven't played in a long time. So the touring schedule is shaping up really good, and it's without me having to chase anyone, and it's without me having to hire somebody who needs to sell me to somebody who doesn't really want to book me. So that's really nice. The next couple of months, there'll be some skiing, which I love, and then Europe in the summertime, and then at the end I'll come back here and go to Burning Man and some of the other festivals. So it's looking good. Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, and I'm very much looking forward to the Toronto show. I really hope everybody who's listening to this can come out and support.